Hello and welcome. This is a guide intended for new players to Higher Ground Path of Ascension Persistent World. You can see on the right there I have the IP addresses listed with the ports for each of the servers. There are 12 servers, I believe. And if you're interested in playing on this persistent world, that's the information you need there. You will also need the Community Expansion Pack to Neverwinter Nights, and there's an optional Higher Ground Enhanced expansion set that is downloadable. If you go to HG Wiki, you will be able to just Google HG Wiki and you'll get to the main page. There's information there on installing the necessary files to play on this realm. Alright, so the first thing is when you come off the boat, this is where I'm standing, and there's a lot of information. If you don't know something, generally you can find a lot of information in the journal. So here you'll see information on commands that you can use in game. You have the exclamation point at the front. You'll find information on legend. The level cap for this realm is 80. You go to the normal game cap of 40, and then the legendary levels 60 up to 60, and then the paragon levels up to 80. And each of those, there's a step up in orders of magnitude in the amount of experience you need to get to those new levels. There's all the information about stuff like that in here. There's information on the hardcore mode, sub races, anything you want to find. There's class specific information. Since I'm a druid on this character, it has dumped all the information on druid here. I also have splash, monk, and bard. It'll automatically give you information in your journal on the classes you're playing, as well as general information. In the left tab, you've got information on the server itself, rules, always good stuff to have. And then here's the most important tool that you will find in your inventory whenever you create a character, the scrying device. And if you use this item, put it on your action bar, I recommend. There's a bunch of important options here. The most important option is the teleport to party leader, which is the top option. If you and the leader of your party are both in areas that allow teleportation, you can use this option to teleport to them at any time. There are many maps, especially later in the game, in high-end content, that this is not allowed. So if you're unsure, just ask. There's also ways to change the appearance of your character, which I'll go into later. So let's take a tour around town. You start on this ship. And way over here on the right, you may not use this for quite a while, but when you find you want to alter a character's build for, like, if something got nerfed or you weren't sure what to do and you did something bad with the build, you can use this reincarnation tool. It has a long cooldown depending on what level you are. So if you are very high level, the cooldown may be up to 3 months. For a lower level character, you may only incur a 1-month cooldown. This guy next to the bar here is Otis. If you get too close, he will wander up to you and try to ask for money, so he can be a bit annoying. You will learn what he's all about pretty quickly. So these two buildings here, this one is the Silver Moon Inn. There are 7 quest givers in this one, and then across the way here is the City Crow Tavern, and there are 3 more quest givers, so there's a total of 10 quest givers. I'll go over quests later. Then over in this corner you have a guy with a boat on this little dock. This will send you to the Arctic area, which is generally for levels 5 to 20, and that increases the deeper you go. So the early areas are pretty safe for a very low level character. Then we have the bank here. This is a very important area, and I'm going to go into this right away. So this is where you will store items, and you used to have to go in here to store money, but now you can store money from anywhere with the wallet command. So if I type wallet balance, you can see in the combat log right here, it shows me how much is in there, and you can also type in wallet deposit and wallet withdraw to take and then a number to deposit and withdraw from your main wallet into your characters. You want to click this little pedestal, which will take you to your own personal bank vault. No one else can get in here. It's very secure. People are locked out of entering this with you. There are multiple rooms in the bank in case multiple people are using it at a time. And then there's a storage chest and a transfer chest. The storage chest is specific to the character you're using, and I've never used it myself. It's up to you if you want to use that. The transfer chest is accessible from all of your characters. And there's the default chest, which is loaded naturally when you log in. I have nothing in this bank chest. But if you use the bank chest command, you can switch chests. So this is a hardcore character, I forgot to mention it. The dash HC on my name means it's a hardcore character. So there won't be anything in these chests because I generally don't use my chests in hardcore because there's a lot more restrictions about transferring items from character to character. But a chest is created simply by referring to its name. So if you type bank chest apple, then you will be in that chest even if it didn't exist previously, and as you save items in that chest by closing it, like once you close it, the items will save. You will receive a message saying it's saved. It'll be a message in red if it didn't save for some reason. The chests can only contain 50 items each. There's limitations on what they can contain, so no stacks of potions, anything that can be stacked. They can't store that. But there should be information in the journal, or you can ask around town about that. So you can separate and categorize what you're storing. Very useful stuff. Going back out to the dock, there's only a few more features out here. The computer I'm recording on this is not very advanced, so you might get some loading times, but we won't be moving around too much, mostly stay in town. There's 2 spell pedestals up here. These are class-specific type of things. For example, if you were a sorcerer, you would come to the spells pedestal after you get into the post-level 40 areas. You will be using the spells pedestal to switch your spells around after each level, because they didn't hard code things into the game. They didn't bake things into the in-game interfaces a lot of times. You have to do things with objects like this that start a conversation. And then there's a pet pedestal, which I believe calls your pet. If you have a DM gifted pet, then you will be able to get access to it there. Not too many people have those. Don't count on getting one. Besides, it's just really a luxury. They're not useful in late game. This temple is useful for one specific thing. Let's talk about item loss. There's 2 ways to lose an item in this game. There's you can lose an item from your inventory if you get it stolen by a mob that can steal things. And there's 3 off the top of my head. There's the quicklings at low levels, ethereal cut purses, and then rogue specters toward level 40. They run into some of those, but they don't permanently steal your item. You don't get them back by killing the enemy. You get them back by coming to this temple. If you talk to this priest, he'll say, "Will you restore my lost item?" Yes. And if you had an item you lost and you were qualified to restore it here, you could pay a decent sum of gold to get the item back. It'll leave a little stolen item thing in your inventory so that you know that you have it there, and you can use it to see what item it used to be. There's also death. So if you die and you respawn, there is, I think, a 25% chance for you to lose an equipped item. And this is shown as a chunk of slag, a chunk of molten slag in your inventory, and you can get it restored there or at the workshop, that's advanced content. We're not going to go into that now. Generally, if you lose an item, go see that priest. The gold prices can be pretty steep, but don't worry, we're going to talk about farming gold as well. So now we're in town. That was all that's really relevant to the docks. Once the game loads here. Right. So the first building on the right here is the Sage. This guy will be important later. I'm not going to talk too much about him in this video. But he has a bookshelf in the back here. This is the generally used place to transfer items that you can't transfer through the bank. So if you put something in this bookshelf, it will not despawn until the server resets. Servers on this realm reset once every 12 hours. You can do list servers to see how long each has been up. So you can see this server 215 has been up for 9 hours, and it will reset in about 3 hours then. So you can get an idea of how long you have before you have to stop whatever you're doing because the server will reset. So putting items into this bookshelf, you can retrieve them with other characters. Now I recommend, I've never had an item stolen from this bookshelf. Players are pretty good about this, and you want to pick a server that's pretty inactive or even empty. And the character, I always walk the character that's going to pick up the items into this room before I put the items in the bookshelf. So then I can log over onto the other character and I'll already be right here to pick the items up. It's just general item security. Lots of buildings in town to talk about. I'm not going to walk into every single one, I just wanted to show the bookshelf there. Most of these are shops. And I'll just talk about what each shop has without jumping inside. The next building over is the clothing shop. You can generally buy robes here. Robes, of course, are caster friendly and monk friendly. This is the Emporium. There are 4 merchants inside. Items, armor, and weapons and exotic weapons. And you can find a lot of this is the lowest level everything shop. I'll go in here later and show some important things. Then this is the exit to the road to town. This is west of town. This is the lowest level areas. You can survive very well here from level 1 to 10 roughly. It's a lot of interconnected areas. It's kind of maze-like. This is the items shop. You can buy basic heal potions, speed potions, teleport gems. Teleport gems are also available in the Emporium. I'll talk about all this in a little bit. There's also summon scrolls in here. Then we have 2 buildings on the right here that nobody uses. These are the weapon and armor shop. These sell mundane, that is +0 versions of all the weapons and armor. I don't recommend using the weapons from there. You can just buy something better from the Emporium. These used to be useful in a previous version of the game, and they just have never been taken out. Rip's Brewery. This is kind of a mid-level equipment shop. Some low-level stuff can also be found here. And see this fountain that I'm standing next to? This is a doorway to NWN Ruins, which is a level 10 to 15 area, and gets a little more advanced the further in you go. A lot of interconnected stuff as well. Okay. And then there's the imports shop. This is the highest level shop in the realm. It has weapons, armor, general items. So there aren't as many options in this store, but there's some good high-level stuff, some generally used stuff that I lean on sometimes. Then there's the north gate to town. This leads to the North Road and the Goblin Camp. There's some areas up here that are level 10 to 15, roughly. You could survive in the earliest areas at a little bit lower, but that's a good mid-range area. This building is just a farmhouse that leads to Rosie's burial chamber. Then we have the Alchemist. This guy can help you customize your equipment, like to craft it. There's a crafting system in this game that allows you to customize how your equipment looks. It does cost gold, and it does have a skill check, but you can find a dye kit in here. You can find ability boosting potions. You can find, this is the shop where you will end up buying potions that you can brew. You can brew a potion into these bottles. That would be important later in the video. Okay, then we have the Rowan tree in center of town, and the Guardian. This Guardian will give you, when your character starts, it will be level 1. This Guardian will give your character enough experience for level 2 or level 3 depending on your class. For example, if you're a wizard, you'll get enough experience for level 3, but if you're a cleric, you only get experience enough for level 2. I don't know every classes how many levels they get. It's not that important since early quests will boost you pretty quickly. And then there's this guy, the priest in the middle of town. If you return to town and you have a debuff on you, he can restore you as long as he can detect you. If you're like in a sanctuary or something, I think he can't do that. This is also the place where you will adjust your good versus evil alignment. You can talk to him. I can't talk to him because I'm an immortal. I'm past level 40. But if you're before level 40 and your character that wants to change alignment, let's say you started out as a paladin and then you want to take pale master levels for some reason, or a paladin and you want to add druid levels for some reason, or you were a druid and you want to add a paladin level to increase your saves, whatever. Your alignment restriction is going to, in your build, will want you to switch from good to evil or neutral or whatever. This guy can do that. You want to either pay him a small donation, it's pretty cheap, or insult him, which will make you evil. There's also, I'm not gonna give you a guide on how to get there, but you can ask in game. There's also a location in the crypt, in the cemetery, where you can do a similar thing to change along the lawful to chaos axis. In case you, for example, you wanted to splash one level of monk and one level of bard, you have to do that sometime in your build. The cemetery, by the way, is over behind this gate. And there's the crypt, which goes all the way from level 1 to level 40. The deeper you go, the harder it gets. Speaking of areas, this is the east gate. We'll be spending some time on the east road later in the video. And this is level 15 plus. Do not go here unless you're prepared for it. East road, the first map is rather punishing. You can get through there with invisibility, which we'll be doing. But things get worse and worse and worse the further you go from town in this direction, eventually culminating in the highest level areas at level 40. And then areas beyond that are scattered. There's entrances all over the game to get to those areas. All right, right next to the Wandering Worm, this is kind of the tavern that everybody will, if you're not in a guild and doing it in a guild hall, this is where you're going to do loot splits, where you're going to pool your loot together and decide who gets what. Right outside the loot split area, there is a mass identifier for 120 gold per item. It will just identify everything in your inventory with a single click. Just touch this, boom, everything identified. Then you want to touch one of these pedestals to unlock the door next to it. When you're in here, when there's somebody inside this room, no one can enter from outside by going through the door, but you can teleport to your party leader. So parties can form in here without risk of interference from other parties. And then you have a container at the end of the room where you can drop all your loot, and it will be just like a regular chest. And then when people are done splitting loot, there's a mass cellar here. Everything in this chest will be sold automatically when the chest is closed. So when no more people are interacting with it, it will close, and everything inside it will be sold that can be sold for gold. And then the gold will automatically be divided among the party members. So there's no need to split gold up. So the general process here is somebody ports in, everybody else follows by using the scry device. Everybody drops their items in the armoire here. Now usually for later game runs especially, one person will be banking. They will be putting everything in their inventory, and then there is a command here, list rarity. This will show you everything in your inventory categorized by rarity. And then there is a special section that isn't shown here because I haven't gotten the items on this reset. It will show a special section. These are the items that your character has picked up during this reset. And this command, the results of this command are visible to everybody. So this is a way that people can, if you are challenged, do you have any more items on you? Just type list rarity. Okay, people can see that you didn't pick up anything else. You dumped everything you had in the armoire. Just, you know, it's good for people to have something to rely on other than the honor system. Then you do the party roll command. And you see I rolled a 70. It will roll a D100. It'll roll 1 to 100 for everybody in the party. And then it will sort those, so if more than one person, if it was just not just me, you would see the party rolls in order of how high the roll was. And this again is visible to everybody. And generally people will say, okay, person at the top, you get 1 item, anything you want from the chest, and the next person gets 1 item, and so on all the way down to the bottom. Anybody can pass at any time, which means they are out of the roll at that point. You can even type party roll pass, and it will take you out of the roll so people can see that you've passed. There is something I've seen occasionally called snaking. This is a loot policy that people use sometimes to make sure that somebody at the bottom doesn't get completely screwed, especially if there's a lot of good items. So the way snaking works is just you go top to bottom and then you go bottom to top. So it would go, whoever rolled the highest takes 1 item on the way down the list, then the person who rolled the lowest takes 1 item, and then it reverses and the person at the bottom takes another item, a second item, and then it goes up the list. And then once everybody has passed, somebody, like anybody that wants to, can put the loot in the mass cellar. Everybody gets gold, everybody's happy. That's pretty much all. Oh, well, I guess I didn't have this in my notes, but there's trash barrels around town. So it's actually against server rules to drop items on the ground in town for server resource reasons. So if you want to throw something away in town, just drop it in a trash barrel. When you close the trash barrel, everything inside will be destroyed. Then we have almost done with the town tour, and then we'll talk about other stuff. So there's a crop circle behind this tavern, behind the farmhouse. And if you happen to have a teleport gem, which are buyable from the shops, and this little garden rack has corn, it'll have 3 pieces of corn and it respawns pretty often, so you can pretty much always get corn from here. If you step into this circle, you will see an implosion-like effect, and where it's not going to kill you, it's going to send you to the abandoned farm. And those areas tend to be level, I would say 15 bare minimum. You probably want to be 20 and above. And then out behind here, down this path through the woods, there is the Druid Grove. This is in a part of another map that has enemies on it. So this is completely enclosed, and you won't run into enemies here, but there is, like, if you look at my map, this area is the Druid Grove, and then everything out here is a map with enemies on it, called the Deadwood. And there's one vendor here. This guy is notable for selling speed potions in packs of 10. The item shop only sells 1 at a time, so it can be very tedious to buy, you know, a full stack of 50 at once. So if you want to buy a lot of speed potions to give you the haste effect, which you should really always be under the haste effect whenever out fighting things, you can buy them much, much more quickly here. There's also heal potions, and there's generally druid and ranger themed items here. Nothing too useful. There's a few things you might find useful at low levels. Okay, so when you first start a character, there's a few things you want to do. First, you want to type the command ENH mode, so ENHMODE, if you're using the enhanced expansion pack that's specific to higher ground. You can find information about that on the wiki. I already shared the wallet commands. There's the effects command, which normally, if you type a command that needs a target, you will get an item called the command targeter. And you can use this on whatever you're aiming command at. I just used the effects command, targeting myself. It will show me, it would list all of the buffs on me with the remaining durations. Neverwinter Nights has a problem where you can't see the duration of effects on you. You can't even see like the actual effects. You see at the top of the screen, you can't see like if somebody casts stone skin on you, you won't see, oh, you got a stone skin buff, and then when you mouse over it, like World of Warcraft is good about this, where it'll show you the actual thing that was cast on you and what the effect is. Neverwinter Nights doesn't do that. It shows you have damage reduction. I don't know what that is. I don't know how much damage reduction. I don't know how long it's going to last. I just have this icon that tells me very little. So effects is a useful command because it will show you how much time you have left on all of your buffs, everything that was cast on you by the spell that was used. As far as inventory management, you know that if you play Neverwinter Nights for any amount of time, you know that things that you pick up just by clicking on them in containers that you find will get dumped into the earliest spot in your inventory possible. As a result, I tend to stash all the stuff that I keep on hand for various reasons in a very organized fashion in the last page. And then on the beginning page, I have a bunch of bags of holding, which completely eliminate the weight of whatever's inside them, so I never go encumbered. I have a bunch of bags of holding here, and you just dump things in there so they don't get weighed down. That's also very useful to have some bags on your first page if you do banking for a run. If you're the one that's chosen or volunteers to pick up all of the loot in a run, and then you loot split it at the end, definitely use bags, unless you're a strength tank, because it's going to take up a lot of weight. Alright, regular supplies. Let me teleport back to town. Do I have a teleport gem on me? Yeah, okay, we're just going to walk then. I think I used to have a rune of return on this character, maybe, or is it in this bag here? Very strange. No, okay, we're walking. So, I'll go over some basic early supplies. I just mentioned bags, teleport gems I've mentioned several times. There's also Saint's Blood Pearls. Potions are in the item shop, and the Druid Girl, I already showed you that. Summons are available for low-level casters. You can cast up to Summon Creature 6, which is a Dire Tiger, and maybe Summon Creature 7, which is an Elemental. I like the Tiger personally. It has Cleave, and it has a lot of strength and high chance to hit. It's not as defensive, but if you're at level 5, it's a great way to kill a lot of low-level things yourself without using spell slots. So in this building, the item shop, you can find potions, teleport gems, summon scrolls, but there's a lot more things available over here in the Emporium, specifically the item vendor. Item vendor in the Emporium is where you're going to be a lot of the time when you're looking for supplies. Bunch of basic things to point out here. If you go to the miscellaneous tab, you can find bags of holding. There's also lesser bags that will just reduce the weight instead of completely eliminating it. Just always use bags of holding. They're pretty cheap. Teleport gems. These will teleport you to town from anywhere in the server as long as you can teleport. This is the same restriction as using the scry device to teleport to your party leader. If you can use the scry device, you can use a gem of teleportation to get out. And this will just send you back to the center of town from anywhere in the server. It's the only place it will send you. It can't be reassigned. Saint's Blood Pearl, right here, this little orb. This thing has 10 charges of the Restoration spell. Super useful. In fact, you will use this all the way through your career playing this game. So early on, not as useful, but as soon as you get to level 15 to 20-ish, you want to carry at least one of these, probably multiples, on you at any time. There's also an interesting item here that not a lot of people know about, unless they've been around for a while, the Ice Necklace. This thing has 4 charges of Ice Storm. I haven't talked about loot breaking. So loot is found in containers out in the world, and a lot of spells and other effects can break these loot containers. And if you break loot, your party's going to hate you. So look at the spell descriptions, figure out what's going to break loot and what won't. But there's also objects that are not loot that you do want to be breaking. There's boulders in early level areas that you want to smash through. There's statues in some places you might want to break. And this is a good way for anybody, whether they have a loot breaking spell or not, to just have access to something that does a little bit of damage to breakable objects. So this is a great thing to carry around for, like, if you're a tank, you want to get through some boulders that you can't even target with your sword for some reason. Carry some of these on your person. Okay, I'm going to move to a splash image here because I want to encourage people as you quest, like as you get to higher levels, don't throw away the rare stuff you find at low levels. Bunch of stuff that you can use, put them in a Lobby transfer chest in the bank and just use them on all your new characters. There's rare items at level 9 that give haste. I would recommend picking up bracers when you find them. A rare helm of haste at level 9 is very useful, a robe. I recommend against armor of haste, because if you're the type that uses armor, you want armor with armor AC on it. So use a different haste item in that case. But definitely want to stash some haste items. There's belts of physical resistance. There's also rare rings and rare helms that do the same thing. 10 physical resistance is super powerful, especially early on. The belts are all guaranteed drops. I'll go over that in a little bit to show you where you find them. Same thing with all 5 of the main elements: fire, electrical, acid, sonic, and cold. There's a ring for each of them that will resist 20 damage in that element. There's also, you can see here for a few of the elements in town, a few of the elements right here in this menu. These are amulets that will resist 15. So even before you have the rings, you have some elemental resist options. But I'll show you where to get these rings in a bit. They are also guaranteed drops. I recommend you stash the fire and acid rings. The other 3 are much easier to get. Fire and acid rings are kind of out of the way, so you want to hang on to those. Then we've got a rare high AC amulet and shield. We're talking 10 or above AC on an amulet or a shield. You want to keep that because that can be hard to come by. And the rare amulets, the rare ones, have a lot of other properties that are cool too. Battle boots. These are high-end boots toward the level 40 that will give you 10 to all 3 physicals at once and give you fear immunity, which is useful in a bunch of places. Generally speaking, fear immunity will be necessary if you're fighting a dragon. The xanthine cloaks are useful. They're cloaks that generally have around 10 to 15 resistance to all 5 elements. Tanks will love these. Because tanks don't have access to a resistance spell like energy buffer, whereas casters will. Then there's some specific items that I recommend you pick up when you find them and hang on to them forever. Bracers of, it's actually bracers of resilience, that's a mistake that I should have edited out. Bracers of resilience from Bloodpool, which is a level 32 boss dragon. Those have 10 armor AC on a bracer, which is unique, and you have immunity to Isaac's Greater Missile Storm and sneak attacks. All useful things. Speaking of sneak attacks can be pretty nasty, especially at low levels, so recommend you, if you find there's a rare low-level helm called the Back Guard, which will make you immune to sneak attacks. Hang on to that if you find it. Another level 32 dragon, Lithiuxus, drops, I think it's about a 50% chance to drop the Gift of Undeath. This is a critical hit immunity ring, and it's as amazing as it sounds. You may not use it much like in Paragon levels, but and it's class restricted. You need to be, I think it's a Blackguard, Cleric, or Pale Master, and be evil. You can use it with Use Magic Device, but you need a lot of ranks, and you need a lot of points in Use Magic Device to use this ring. So when you find that, it'll drop. If you roll an altar 2, you probably get one of these at some point. And then there's spell slot belts. These are also rare. If you play a caster, you're going to want one of these. There is not one for druid, but there is one for each of the other 3 caster classes, the 3 mains. There's one for cleric, Neophyte's Hope. There's Zatouch's Ruin for wizard, and there's Lustrous Coil for sorcerer. If you find these of any quality, hang on to them. They go up to +10. You get a lot of spell slots for equipping these, and they're not that difficult to find. There are weaker versions of the spell slot belts that give you low-level spell slots. I never use those, but you're welcome to if you want. The Sheath of Stealth. I am going to go into later providing yourself with a very consistent way to do invisibility. The Sheath of Stealth has 2 charges of improved invisibility that will refresh every time you rest. It's usable by any class. You can find it in a pretty low level area. So once you find one of these, you can transfer it to new characters just fine. I forget what the level is to use it, but yeah, hang on to that. Or just get it on every new character. That's not that hard to get. Rebirth stones. These are things that will resurrect. If you have one in your inventory, it will resurrect you upon death automatically. It will like if you have multiples in your inventory, it will be guaranteed to consume 1, and all of the other rebirth stones in your inventory will be a coin flip as to whether they disappear or not. So you could get super lucky and only consume, like if you're carrying 5, you could get 5 resurrections out of it if you're super lucky. Or you could get super unlucky and lose all 5 in the first one. You're guaranteed to lose 1 every time you die. People don't generally carry these at high levels because you just lose them pretty early. Deaths are pretty common in high level runs and people will resurrect you anyway. But if you want to farm them, there is a spot in the Bloodmoor. Remember, at the Druid Grove, I mentioned the Dark Glade was, or the Deadwood was right behind that. If you go northwest from there, you get to the Bloodmoor, and if you follow the right side, you get to a spot against the water that has a little loot spot. It's behind some webs, which you will need to break with loot breaking effects, and there's spiders there. The spiders can't see you if you're invisible, and the rebirth stone spot respawns every half hour. So you could camp a character there and just stock up on them. They're great for solo play. You will come back unbuffed if you're a caster. You won't have all your buffs. Okay, let's see what else. Keys. There's a lot of lobby areas will require a key. For example, to get into the crypt where the crypt thing is, you need the key from the goblin or the kobold reanimator. Now, I recommend you save a few important keys when you found them. Keep them in your whatever your lobby bank chest is. Some keys are consumed on use. All the ones on this list are not consumed on use, so keep them in case you ever need them. They are the farmhouse key, which comes from the farmhouse storeroom. The reanimator's key, which I just mentioned, which comes from the kobold reanimator. The spade and club keys. At the bottom of the crypt, there is the Hall of Kings. Crypt level 4 has 4 wings to it, and one of the wings leads to the Hall of Kings, and the other one to the Bone Hoard. And the 4 keys on Crypt level 4 are the 4 suits in playing cards: spade, heart, diamond, club. I recommend you keep the spade and club keys, as you will need both at any time to go to either of these. You'll need both of them to go to the Bone Hoard or the Hall of Kings. They are the 2 keys that are renewable. The heart and diamond key, well, I think the diamond key is safe. The heart key to get to the Hall of Kings, which is the more important one, that one is consumed on use. But you can save the spade and club keys. The black sun symbol from the underwater tunnels, which will allow you to get into the defiled temple, and the sewer ward stone. In town, west of Rip's Tavern, there is a little well, and that will take you down to the sewers under the town of Ascension. And there's a back room. So the main hub of the sewers, and then off to the east there's a side room which is behind a wall. If you have this ward stone, you can get through that wall freely, and it's actually kind of useful. There's a back way to go up, like through the deep sewers and through the Rat King's lair to get into that back area, and the ward stone is back there. It's behind the wall. So once you get that ward stone, hang on to it in case you ever need to get back there in a hurry. Alright, let's talk about parties. Well, first of all, there's no PvP to speak of on NWN on Higher Ground, because it is actively discouraged. PvP in Neverwinter Nights has some serious balance problems, and this is an entirely PvE, player versus environment, realm. So you're not going to be fighting any other players. There are very rare PvP-driven events that will happen on a special map and are run by the DMs. Otherwise, don't attack other players. You will get in trouble for it. More specifically, you may not get in trouble for it, but the other player is allowed to kill you. Well, okay. There's also pickpocketing, which will get you a bad reputation if you pickpocket a bunch and you're found out. Players will hate you, and this is a small community, so you do not want that. You want to be able to party with people. If you pickpocket someone and they detect it, they are allowed to attack and kill you, so be warned. Generally, there's no real PvP or pickpocketing that I've ever seen on this server. I've actually never seen it happen. Characteristics of a party. So you're expected to bring a certain level of competence. You're expected to have special immunities for a given area. So there are a few miscellaneous immunities to things. I've already covered sneak attack immunity. That's a good one to have. Death magic immunity, which also covers from death effects generally. Mind affecting spell also protects against other mind effects very often. So there's those three. There's fear immunity and knockdown immunity. And early on, the most important ones are knockdown, death magic, and mind spell immunity. You're going to want to have the special immunities relevant to the area when you go into the area. People just want you to have that. You really do too. You do not want to get knocked down in the middle of a fight or instantly killed. A lot of shop items will have these immunities. If you're a tank, people want you to have good armor class. I'll cover places where you can get good armor class later. Also resistance, which I'll cover later, where to get stuff like that. If you're a cleric, people will want you to buff them heavily, especially weapon buffs, and use harm and heal, which are two spells which will affect either living creatures or undead by dropping them to single-digit HP. Very powerful spell unless something is immune to it. People may also expect you to use Battle Tag and Prayer, which I'll cover in the class guide. Implosion is maybe your most powerful spell. It's a very powerful area insta-kill. People won't be expecting that at low levels, though. Mage, which is either sorcerer or wizard, people will expect you to buff them sometimes. They may want weapon buffs again. Displacement is a common request. People will also, especially toward level 40, expect you to have Big B spells. Specifically the level 7 and 9 variants. Those are Big B's Grasping Hand and Big B's Crushing Hand. You will really want to have at least one of those. They are very powerful at high levels. So you get into post 40 areas, and then they fall off in power a bit. There are various insta-kill spells, things like Phantasmal Killer, Finger of Death, Weird, Wail of the Banshee. Insta-kill spells, super powerful, parties generally look for them. Mordenkainen's Disjunction is a level 9 spell that strips all buffs and lowers spell resistance on a target by 10. That is huge. It's a very powerful spell. You will want to have it at some point. I'll cover more spell-related stuff in class guides, like I said. A druid, people will really expect you to buff because cleric and mage are high in offensive power, but druid is not as much. There is some specific niche things they can do, and eventually elemental swarm, but a druid is more about support a lot of the times, I find. So you want to use utility spells quite a bit as a druid. If you're partying with people, don't be afraid of losing XP, because rather than, if you're familiar with the way things work in Final Fantasy in general, or other MMOs like World of Warcraft, as your party size increases, the XP you get from each kill is divided evenly. So if you have 2 players, you'll be getting half as much XP, which is usually compensated for by kill speed. In this, there is no division. You just get how much XP a mob gives you, and it's in fact buffed. The more players you have in your party, the more XP you get. Party size only goes up to 10. After that, the server just will not let you do anymore. So party size is really capped at 10. Drop rate is also increased. So the more people you have in your party, the better loot you will get generally. You'll have to split it among more people, but this is it's an incentive to party with other people. So this one thing they've done that I really like is they've given active incentives for people to party. Your XP rate is so much higher when you're in a party, and you get great items. Speaking of items, there are 3 kinds of loot in this game. There are fixed drops, there's higher ground random loot, and there's vanilla Neverwinter Nights random loot. Fixed drops will either be guaranteed to drop from a specific spot or enemy, or they will be a chance to drop from a specific spot or enemy. There may be like 1 drop from a set of possible items, for example. Vanilla random items stop showing up pretty early on. You won't really see them past level 40 at all. But there are things like random spell scrolls, or like really cheap gems, or mundane equipment, or a single piece of gold. You won't see single pieces of gold, but those are vanilla Neverwinter Nights items are generally not useful. Just ignore them. Higher ground random loot is the best loot in the game usually. Some fixed drop items are really good as well, but random loot is where you're going to get a lot of your early good stuff. So there's a bunch of tiers of this. There's common, uncommon, rare, ultra rare, which is only available 40 and beyond, beyond ultra rare, which is only available 60 and beyond from certain runs, and then there's extremely rare, or XR. So you're going to see rare, and then you'll see people type which is UR. That means ultra rare. Burr is beyond ultra rare, and then XR is extremely rare. If you type list rarity, like I mentioned earlier for loot splitting, the game will divide the items up into these categories, so you can tell. Like if you're not sure if an item is rare or not, just type that command, and it will tell you automatically. All right, questing. So there's 10 linear quest givers. I showed you where the buildings are. You can go find them yourselves. I'm also not going to tell you where all the quest items are. You can have some fun exploring the server. It's a great way to discover the server is to look for those items. The hints that the quest givers give you are pretty. They're like if you're in the area, you'll probably have a pretty good idea that you're in the area you're looking for. There's a few ways to obtain the quest items. They could be on an enemy, where you need to kill the enemy. The quest giver might give you an item that you need to use on a specific spot to retrieve the item you're looking for, or you need to use the ! search command with the command targeter to search a specific spot. So if you get a message that says you didn't find anything, then you're not searching in the right spot. If you get the item or you don't get any message at all, then you are in the correct spot, whether you're on the quest or not. Okay, and the way quests work, you get the quest from the quest giver, you go out and find the item, you turn it in for XP, and sometimes lower level quests will give you items. Each of the quest givers have a linear quest chain, so there's no branching. You just get one quest at a time until you go through their list of quests. They gradually get more and more. Like all the quest givers, their early quests start in like level 1 to 5 areas, and then they'll end at level 40 areas, so they all scale all the way up. It's a good idea to do quests while you are in an area where you're also killing a boss, if you can, to group things up, to knock out several birds with one stone. If multiple people in your party are on the same quest, and one person finds the quest item, everybody that's in your party and on that map, you have to be on the map, will get the quest item. So you don't have to share quest. You cannot share quests with other people. You can't give them the quest that you're on. They have to go get it themselves. But if two people are on a quest, you're not competing for the quest item. You'll all get the quest item if anybody does. So there's a bunch of bosses. If I type list, let's see here. If I type list ACC 3LL, this is the lobby bosses, and I will be making videos eventually to cover how to get the boss credit for each of these. To get boss credit for each of these boss kills, you have to be at no more than the level cap. See, this first one is level 7, so you can't be above level 7 and get this boss credit. You have to be no higher than the level cap. You have to be on the map and in the party that got the kill when the kill happens. And for many of these, you have to get what's called a kill count. You have to kill enough minor enemies on the way to the boss. They don't want you skipping to the end and just getting the boss credit. So if you're going to go for these bosses, don't just warp to the end, find a party, clear the way through. Don't jump to the end. And you can use this command that I just entered. It's list ACC space 3LL. LL stands for legendary levels, which is the, so it's saying it's tags before level 40 or up to level 40. So that's how you check. Like these rows for each of these tags will turn purple when you have the boss credit. Talk about gearing for a moment here. So resist items are super powerful early on. Here are the 8 different common elements, the 5 elementals and the 3 physical, which I might call physical elements. Slashing for things like swords and claws, bludgeoning for things like hammers and fists, piercing for things like arrows, spears. And there is a guaranteed drop spot for 20 elemental resistance or 10 physical resistance for all 8 of these. So for fire, you want to go to the Underdark Forest. Cold is in one of the spider caves just north of town. Electrical is in the Underdark Lake near the Kurotoa Chief in the water breathing ring. Acid is in the back room of the sewer. And Sonic is at the Kobold camp, or it's the Goblin camp. The Sonic ring is the least useful. Sonic is generally considered quasi-exotic because it's not as common as the other 4, but you might run into it here and there, like thunderclaps or the enemies at the strange tower. Then the 3 physicals. Slashing is found at the first map of the NWN's ruins. This is where you appear when you first use the rainbow stone in the fountain in front of the tavern. And it's found going north on the left. Piercing is found on top of the Knoll Fort. So once you get onto the Knoll Fort map, you can look at a tag guide later on for this, but you just need to go north of town to get to the till gnolls start appearing, and then turn left. So the Knoll Fort has a locked front gate and the keys behind the gate. So to get in, you need to go around the right side till you find some ivy growing on the wall, and then you can't click on the transition. You need to use WASD to walk into that ivy on the wall. And if you find the secret entrance, you will be ported into the underground of the Knoll Fort. Then just go to the center of the map, find the path upward, and get on top of the fort. Bludgeoning is found east of the Goblin Camp. So the Goblin Camp where the Sonic Ring is, just go east of there to the map called the Crenshaw Pride, and it is near the center of the map on a corpse. So all of those items are useful. Recommend you collect all of them on new characters or stash them. The fire and acid rings again are the hardest to get to, so I recommend stashing those in any event. Okay, that was resistance. So as far as physical soak, resistance and soak are 2 different things. Resistance will just stop damage. Physical soak or damage reduction is like a stone skin effect. You'll see a plus number, then a slash, then an amount that's resisted. The plus number is the amount of enhancement that the weapon has to have to pierce that. And things like stone skin generally have a limited amount of damage they can stop before they get worn off. So if an enemy has stone skin, you could just keep hitting him and eventually the damage reduction will go away. But if it's from an item, then it will never go away. And some items have pretty good soak on them. So there's a series of cloaks in the tavern, Rip's Tavern. There's the Cloak of the Ghosts, Cloak of the Empower Ghost, and Cloak of Premonition. They're usable by sorcerers, wizards, and I think bards. You can also use magic device to use them. But they give 10 soak, up to 4 enhancement. Very useful for early stuff. Generally, the great thing about soak, even if the enhancement isn't very high, is that it will still stop spells. It'll still stop effects that are not weapons, that don't have no enhancement. So things like the bludgeoning part of an ice storm or a giant throwing a boulder, those things all have no enhancement, so any soak will stop the damage on them. So if you have 10 soak on a cloak, then the giants at NWN's Ruins, for example, if you're going after the slashing belt, those giants throwing rocks at you will do 10 less damage. Alright, moving on to talk about armor class. There's a bunch of different types of armor class. If I look at my gear here, you get armor AC generally from your armor, or from some bracers. You get shield AC from your shield, which will go in your offhand slot. You get natural AC from your armor, or from your amulet, or from the bark skin spell. Dodge comes from your boots, from haste, things like that. And then there's deflection, which is found on rings and belts and gloves and helms and cloaks, found from a lot of sources. So if you're a tank especially, you want to have a lot of AC, but other classes tend to want a lot of AC as well. It's a good idea. Lowers a chance for your enemies to hit you. So there's 4 good items I want to point out here. Generally, you can get good low-level AC for starting out. You can get it from the shops just by looking for the items that I just mentioned in the slots I mentioned. But there's 4 items that surpass what you can buy in the shops that are very easily obtainable that you'll want to get, especially if you're a tank. If you want a good shield that is above the level of shops, I recommend you go to Fox Ridge and look in the southeast corner. There is an intelligence ring there as well, but there's a +10 small shield. This is usable for anybody that can use a shield. There's also a +10 tower if you go into the cave nearby, if you happen to be able to get mileage out of tower shields, which pretty much means you need to be a strength tank or something like a cleric. Natural armor amulet. There's one found 1 map away from the abandoned farm. So if you take the crop circle in town, like I mentioned, and then go north through the gate, the key is found in a box next to the farmhouse, by the way. It's always obtainable. On the east side, around the back of one of the platforms, is a +9 natural armor amulet, which is much better than the maximum you can get from town, which I believe is +5. Shields in shops generally go up to +7. Dodge is very difficult to come by early on, especially if you don't have a lot of gear saved up. The best boots you will find for a long time will be the Rhiannon's Constancy boots from Rip's Brewery, which are +4 and knockdown immunity. +4, it's hard to go above that, except there's one spot where you can get a guaranteed +10 boots, which also have, very helpfully, they have +10 Constitution on them. Boots of Hardiness +10 are found in the bottom of the web. This is level 35 boss area, the Queen Spider. You don't have to kill the Queen Spider to get it though, and all of the spiders in this lair will not be able to see you if you're invisible. The circle I meant in the lower left image there, the red circle, is on a platform. You need to break a web to get to it, and once you're on the platform, you need to be able to disable the trap and unlock the chest. The DC for the disabled trap is 60, I believe, and the unlock check is 65. Any level appropriate rogue or mage's familiar pixie. I recommend using a pixie familiar at all times, mages, because of this things like this. A pixie familiar level should also be able to open that chest. If you don't think you're going to be able to get down to the web level 3, all these items in general are good to save in your lowly stash. And then deflection. There's a bunch of different items you can get here. I like the cloak, which is available if you just keep going east from town. Eventually you'll wind up in the Dark Glade. Just keep going east, map after map, until you get to the Dark Glade. In the spot circle is a large boulder, which has a +9 deflection cloak in it. There's plenty of sources of deflection AC, though. If you get a rare item, generally it's going to have deflection on it if it's one of the level appropriate slots, or one of the deflection slots. Another source of AC that's rather important on this realm is tumble. Every 5 ranks, not points, not modified points, but ranks on character creation screens that you put into tumble, every 5 points you get 1 AC out of that. And if you're a tank, this is especially important. If you do not have a class that can use tumble, it is actually very powerful to splash a class that will provide tumble as a class skill at level 37 or above. You can't change classes after level 40, by the way. At that point, your build is set in stone. So the highest level you can splash is level 40, and at level 37, you can put the best possible ranks into tumble that are meaningful. 40 points is really all that you need. If you're playing a monk, or playing a bard, or playing a rogue, then you can get 60 points. There's also some feats that you can look into, some specific feat setup. Look in the journal for that. Legendary skill affinity will allow you to raise skills past 40 for skills that you have. Look in the journal, it's all explained in there. So we're going to move over now to a little bit of a demonstration here, because I want to give you a way to obtain gold early on. That's why I'm on this character. This is the default appearance for a gnoll. And this is a subrace that is available to everybody. You want to be a human, and you want to type gnoll, G-N-O-L-L with G capitalized, in the subrace field when creating a character. I'll show that later because we're going to go into the test chamber and show how you can test builds. But this subrace I'm using because it has good constitution, and it has a bonus class ranger, which I won't go into why that's important. If you start learning about building, you'll figure out why it's important. It's not really important now. But this is where I'll cover changing your character's appearance, because this pink color is kind of ugly. Unless you happen to like that, it's kind of an eyesore. So let's change it up. Let's go to, I need to make changes to my character account. That's option number 4. I want to select another appearance. You can cycle through by just keep picking this option. So there I can become an orange, greenish, black and white, black and brown, and red. Let's stick with this one. Okay, so now we've changed our appearance. A lot of subraces will let you do this, for example, and some classes as well, because I think Pale Masters can do this. I know Dragon Disciples can change between like a full dragon form and a dragonkin, more humanoid form with this option. So explore that if you're using the subrace. This is the gold farming demonstration. So let me rest real quick to get my invisibility. You can do this with a wizard at level 3. So right off the docks, you have a wizard, go to the Rowan Guardian, get level 3 for free, go to the item shop, buy some speed potions, put invisibility in your level 2 slots, put that stuff on your bar, and you're ready to go. That's all the setup you need. So I'm going to use haste right out of the gate here. You will have 3 minutes on each invisibility cast. In a second, I'm going to talk about resting as well, because that'll be important for this. So most of the maps east of town, nothing can see you when you're invisible. So first thing I want to do is cast invisibility. Okay, see how those guys went after me? They're kind of tracking where I used to be, and then they stopped moving because I kind of got away. If you start invisible, then they will not even react to you. So I should have cast invisibility as soon as I left town there. Follow the left side. Doesn't matter, nothing on this map can see you, but just follow the left side. And I'm going to show you a bunch of spots you can loot completely safely. This corpse right here, a couple times I've had these guys react to me, so you can skip this spot if you want. Just cast invisibility right after. So popping a loot container, it'll leave remains behind like this, which will have the items in it. The remains container will not break invisibility, but popping the loot in the first place, so interacting with the corpse there, that breaks invisibility, so be careful. These two items are guaranteed drops, so you'll definitely get those. Bring along bags if you want, in case items are heavy. With a few heavy items on this trip. Next, the crossroads. This will be coming back here a little bit later to show something else. Next up is the Plains of War. The archers on this map cannot see you when you're invisible, but everything else can. But there's an easy way to get through this map without being seen. And all you have to do is follow the left side closely. So the way spawns work for enemies in this game is they're invisible triggers on the floor. So you do not want to step on them. So right to my right here, there is a spawn trigger for some enemies that would be able to see me. So don't step on that. Stick to the left side here. And then see where this long bone is on the ground? This is about where you want to start going to the right. So go through that long bone to where this rock is. Then go forward, and there's this loot spot with guaranteed loot here. Perfectly safe to walk up to it. And this one has these two items guaranteed. That sword is like 600,000, I think. Alright, so introduction to resting. I'm out of both my charges of invisibility, so I'm going to rest. There are 3 kinds of areas on higher ground. There are areas that will not let you rest, such as I don't think you can rest in the bank. You also are not allowed to rest in certain high level areas. The resting button in the top right, the closed eye, like the eyelash icon, that will be red if you can't rest in an area. There are also areas like the one I'm on right now, the Plains of War, that are free rest, where you can rest anytime you want, no penalty. Town is also obviously a place you can rest anytime you want. Then there is a more dangerous kind. There's the kind of map where it will let you rest, but it might summon enemies on top of you. These are unsafe rest areas. If you're unsure, I'm not going to make like a map or anything to show you what areas are what. Just ask if you're not sure if it's safe to rest in an area. You'll soon learn through experience. You're not allowed to continue I think you might, I don't think they care anymore, because the enemies that you spawn through resting do not give experience. They are just an annoyance. They don't drop items either. So if you go around the top, past the exit, and back along these 2 rocks, don't stray to either side, you can get a few more valuable items here. That armor and this horn both are set loot. This is a random drop, that belt. Now we're going to the Fox Trail, and you want to stick to the left side here. No need for invisibility yet. There is a loot spot here that contains there's a random item here, but these 3 items, the armor, the belt, and the amulet, those are all guaranteed to drop. And I'm going to rest again here, even though I don't technically need to because I want to refresh invisibility. There's 2 more spots that you can get, and the last one is the most valuable of all, so that one's worth a couple million. So go invisible because there are beetles here. Again, nothing here can see you. So far, the Plains of War is the only map where anything could see you invisible. And the spawn triggers on that map are very easy to avoid. So out here is the Dark Glade. This is the map I mentioned that has a cloak. And you can go loot that cloak if you want. That's more set loot. I'm not going to bother here because I already showed a map where it is. And there's also a spot on the left here. This corpse, I believe, is a set drop, maybe 2 items. So safely get into... These guys can't see me invisible. If you see any lieutenants, which spawn at higher levels, those will be able to see you while you're invisible. So go into the drow tunnels. And then after the first entrance area here, stick to the left side. And if you go all the way, staying on the left side, these raiders could be a problem because they're over here in the corner being in the way. So I'm going to summon my familiar you can use as a decoy here to get them out of the way. Nah, one of them didn't move. That's too bad. So I'll probably get killed here, but if you can avoid spawning this, you can avoid spawning this group right here, and in that case it'll be safe. Or you can decoy, because these bones have a sword. Oh, see, they didn't quite see me before I cast a new invisibility. This sword is very valuable. Doing this whole loot trip, you should get, I think, 3 to 4 million, maybe 5 if you get lucky with rare items. And then, if you're on a level 3 character doing this, there's absolutely no downside to just attacking these guys, getting one shot, and then this is a good way to show this. When you hit respawn, or you respawn naturally after about 5 minutes, I think, of being on the ground, you will go to this map, the Fugue, which has this guy, which should be a familiar character down the road, and he will send you back to town. And because I respawned there, I had a 25% chance to lose an equipped item. The penalties for death are a little bit of an XP loss, a little bit of gold loss, and possibility of losing an item. None of those will affect you on a character like this. And then you can just go to the Wandering Worm. I didn't mention this actually, but I should now. Unless you have very, very high appraise skill, you want to sell everything you ever sell in the worm. Go to the inside splitting rooms, drop everything in the mass seller chest, close the chest, get all the gold. That has the best price in town. Unless you have super high appraise skill, in which case I believe the imports might be a little bit higher, but generally just always sell stuff in the Wandering Worm. Alright, so I'm gonna show a build that you might get some use out of. This is a little bit more of a niche build, and it's a simple wizard, ranger, monk combo that only goes to level 8. And first I'll show what the build is capable of, and then I'll show you an image and go over the build in detail so you can build one yourself. Again, I use Null because Null has bonus class ranger and a bunch of other features that make it really good for doing this, and it's available to anybody. You'll unlock sub-races later on, but there's a bunch of sub-races that are available. You can find them all on the wiki. If you search for builds on HQ Wiki, you can find them that way. So you're going to teleport down to the town quickly. And I gave myself a ranger level so that I could get some points in animal empathy. Because 2 maps east of town, we've already been there, it's called the Crossroads, there is a very, very powerful bird. It's called the Altum. And it is capable of soloing enemies in the areas around it, and also lower level stuff. Generally, it can handle things that are up to level 15 to 20-ish. It can be killed. Don't take it into higher level areas. It's going to get mowed down quick. Null is too fat to get through that gap, apparently. Alright, so I'm going to go invisible and run through the East Road again. I'm just going to spawn a bunch of enemies. Now, when you're invisible, again, nothing on the East Road can see you, but there are mages. And the mages open with a spell called Great Thunderclap. And they can also use Ice Storm. Both of those spells, those are the only 2 things that can do anything to you while you're invisible. And the only way they can do anything to you is if you are near the Altum when he is hit by the spell. So normally, soloing the East Road, this is a very high XP area. You can get the Altum as early as like level 3 if you want, on like a Ranger or a Druid. You can get a level 4 Wizard with 3 levels of Wizard, 1 level Ranger or Druid to make the Altum work, and level up very quickly from the safety of invisibility if you know how to do it. The mages, however, force you to control the position of the Altum very carefully relative to your position. You do not want them to be casting on the Altum while you're too close to it. And that comes with knowledge of the East Road, blah blah blah. There's no Altum here. Okay, I might have despawned it. And quickly find another server. No problem. So while I am running there, I will throw up the splashing for the build, then we'll go over that first, and then I'll show you what magic it does. So human, subrace, null, type null into the text box. Lawful is important because you're going to be taking monk level. Doesn't matter if you're good, neutral, or evil. Level 1 you want to take as wizard. Take the feat's extend spell and toughness. And make sure you have the spell protection from alignment. At level 2, wizard level, doesn't matter, you're still taking level 1 spells. Nothing really is useful there, move on. Level 3, another wizard level with lightning reflexes feat, and you want the spells invisibility and cat's grace, which are both level 2 spells. Level 4, you're going to take a ranger level and increase your constitution, and put 7 points in animal empathy. The game will also want you to take a favored enemy feat because you took a ranger level. It doesn't matter which one you take, just pick a random one. Level 5, you want to take wizard with the spells endurance and false life, both of which are level 2. False life is an example of a higher ground enhanced only spell. So if you have the enhanced package, you will have access to extra spells and certain extra features, extra graphics, various things. It's a great thing to have. I definitely recommend it if you're going to play this game. But those are both level 2 spells. Then on level 5, or level 6, take wizard again. Take the brew potion feat. Now, unless you're taking at level 1, higher ground puts the meta magic feats and the item creation feats into their own categories. So you want to click on item creation and then pick brew potion from the list. It's like picking a spell focus feat. Then pick meta magic and choose empower if you want. That one's not that important. You want displacement and protection from elements, both level 3 spells. Level 7 you want monk, a monk level. This is just for evasion, which you get at monk level 1. Don't need to bother with anything else on that level. On level 8, take wizard, max out your concentration and spellcraft skills. You'll be able to take 11 points in each of those, and take the haste spell. 1 second. Yeah, okay, take haste spell, and also the clarity spell can be useful. Okay, now I've covered the build. I'm going to cover the items you equip. So, from the Emporium items vendor, you're going to get Greater Gloves of Animal Handling and 2 Rings of Animal Friendship. You'll also get the Cloak of Resistance +3, the Scarab of Protection +3. Then from the Emporium Weapons Merchant, you'll get the Staff of Command. This is not on the regular weapons tab, it's on the magical items tab. Go to the Armor vendor and get the Iron Weasel Helm. Then go to Rip's Brewery and get the Rhiannon's Constancy boots. Those are the 4 dodge knockdown immunity boots I mentioned before. And go to the clothing store and get the Robe of Cold Resistance. Then if you want, this is just an extra measure, it's not necessary, get the Greater Belt of Brawling out of the Crenshaw Cry. That's the 10 brawling bludgeoning resistance spell. The important spells here are Protection from Alignment, the evil version. You want protection versus evil. You want to use resistance extended. So you can see on the right side there, you can see what the spellbook is supposed to look like. So you want extended resistance, Cat's Grace, endurance, false life if you have it. Protection from elements gives you 30 resistance to sonic and cold, which are the elements of those spells I mentioned. And extended invisibility, which at the level that you're going to be at with this build will give you 12 minutes of uninterrupted invisibility, assuming you don't attack anything. Alright, back to the game. So dominate the Ultim with the gear setup I showed. This will be guaranteed. It will be nearly guaranteed if you're in combat, but I'm not in combat, so to take 20, you get a free maximum roll, so you're guaranteed to dominate the Ultim. I'm still invisible. I'm going to make the Ultim hasted. This is always a good idea by dragging a haste potion onto him. Make sure your own haste and invisibility never drop while you're doing this. Now this build, with everything that I've set up, will almost perfectly resist Thunderclap and Ice Storm both. So I'm going to go off to the left here and fight the Chief. The Chief has 2 mages next to it. And I'm going to stay near the Ultim at all times. So right away, I'm lagging a little bit. See that big bright explosion there? That was Great Thunderclap. So that spell, even though it exploded right next to me, didn't damage me at all. You have a 95% chance to just ignore it because of evasion and the amount of reflexes you have. And I didn't even buff here, so I'm just using the base stats my character has. And you see the Ultim got killed there. You gotta be a little bit careful with him, not attack too much at once. Be careful around mages, pack heal potions to drop on him from time to time. But this build will allow you to control the Ultim while being in much greater safety than you would just on a low level build. And the experience that you get from this, like you can use this character to power level people, you can use dual box and power level yourself if you really want to, but you can also craft invisibility potions. And the way you do that is you need the brew potion feat, you need the spell in question, you need some spare XP and gold. It takes a very small amount. And then you want to buy some empty potion bottles from the alchemist. I believe it's the alchemist, but let me just check here. And cast the spell on the empty potion bottle. And the Sheath of Stealth that I mentioned earlier is really valuable for renewable, like free source of invisibility. These are consumable, so like the rack of 10 empty potion bottles here, you would cast it on this spell and it would make, you cast the spell on this bottle and it would make 10 potions right away. It'll make them in packs of 10 of invisibility. The catch is that they're consumable. They run out when you use them. So you can, but you don't have to have a specific class to use these, so anything that doesn't have invisibility, you really should be spreading these around. So this is great, it'll give you a great source of very cheap invisibility on whatever character you're using. Now I'm going to go to the test chamber. I think this is our last stop. Oh, I wanted to mention, just generally for armor class, if your character has up to 10 base dexterity, that is dexterity before you have anything from equipment or buffs, then you want to use heavy armor if you can. When your base dexterity goes to 12, you can now benefit and get extra AC from using medium armor. When your base dexterity goes to 22, then you can benefit from using light armor. And if you happen to get as high as 44 base dexterity, you'd probably be a dex tank at that point. Then you can you can get extra AC from using robes. Yeah, so I'm going to jump into the test chamber here. So the test chamber is completely isolated from the rest of the game. It is purely there for testing builds and making sure they work. So I'm going to make a new character here. And this is where you type in subrace. So let's just make another null. Type in null. It is extremely picky. You need to type it exactly. Your journal can also provide you, like HGWiki and your journal will both provide you with information on subraces. So now we're a null. Pick any old portrait. Blah, blah, blah. First portrait available. Make a wizard. I'm just going to simulate making this build. We need lawful for the monk level. Abilities, just go all out on intelligence for a wizard. Put a bunch of points in constitution. Some in dexterity for a reflex save, why not? A few in strength and carrying capacity. I'm not going to build it exactly, I'm just going to show how the test chamber works a little bit. I don't care about skills at level 1, you can always catch them up later. Oh, I don't know, maybe toughness. Extend spell is usually pretty good. Don't care about that. Just any old spells. The game is going to drop all the level 1 spells on you as a wizard anyway. Pixie is a familiar I recommend at all times unless you're like very early creation, you want something to fight by your side, in which case Panther is very good, or maybe Hellhound. Alright, customize, don't care about appearance, we're going to be a null anyway. Anything with a subrace that replaces your appearance, you don't need to really customize your appearance. And then you want to put left bracket, capital test, right bracket, and the name anywhere. If that is in the name of your character, you will be redirected to the test chamber. And this character can never go to the main game. These are completely separate areas. There's no way for anybody to get into the test chamber or out of it. If you have this in your name, you will be in the test chamber. If you do not, then you're free to go through the rest of the game. So it just warps me straight into the Hall of Training, which is the test chamber. There's going to be a Baylor in front of me here. This guy is where you do all the functions for the test chamber from. So you see I got changed to a male null there, which female, this default appearance is the pink one. This is more armor, regular brown null. You can change your level, your alignment. You can delete the character from here as well. So if you want to delete a character from town, a regular character, not a test character, you want to go to the Rowan Guardian. And there's multiple confirmations. You can see if I say I want to delete this character, he's like, okay, you have to confirm it again. And if I confirm it, oh, you have to confirm it again. They just want to make sure you're really sure about it. Don't be afraid about accidentally deleting your character. You have to be really deliberate with it. You can also do basic equipment. So you could buff your attack bonus to the +20 cap, for example. Just general stuff for testing. You can find a lot of stuff in this option that will let you test various things. Like you could do a weapon, a specific weapon. Let's say I want a Morning Star. It'll drop a mundane Morning Star in here to make sure that stuff like, I don't know, the Weapon Master feats or Weapon Focus, stuff like that is working. If when you hit change level, you want to type the level just by itself. So let's say 40. I want to be level 40. Then hit 1 again. Confirm, and it'll give you enough experience for level 40, and you can go up and down freely. I'm not sure, you might be stuck if you go past level 40. You might be stuck because that involves like dealing with this legendary level interactable over here, and that's conversation based. It's not the regular game's interface. Leveling method changes. You still have the same options roughly, but you're going to be dealing with conversation menus after level 40, not the game's regular menus. So now that I'm level 40, I can just take my levels normally the way I would in the interface. Take a wizard level, I don't know, whatever spells the game wants me to take, blah, blah, blah. Continue. Okay, now I want to be a monk. Let's take a monk level. You can just build freely up and down. Oh, I decided I made a mistake. Let me go down to level 1 again. Or let's just go down to level 2 because I made a mistake on level 3. Boom, done. Did that work? 2. Confirm. Okay, so now I'm level 2 again. So I only have the experience for level 2, but then I can just immediately go, okay, I want level 18. Let's take this all the way to level 18. Blah, blah, blah. I can make myself more good. So I do this a few times to get character. Yeah. So yeah, these are the functions of the test chamber. Easy stuff, pretty intuitive. The community is very good about answering questions. They generally don't want you to ask questions out in public, like have public conversations about game secrets, like where quest destinations are, how to beat bosses, stuff that's in high-level runs, secrets. But in party chat, you can say anything you want. There are rules about contact with other people. Just generally be a reasonable, agreeable person, you'll be fine. One thing about partying with other people that I didn't mention earlier, it's first come, first serve for each area. If somebody's in an area, they have dominion over that area. You can generally pass through, just tell the person you're passing through, try not to spawn anything on them, maybe deal with the spawns that you make, but generally just communicate. Like if you're going through the East Road and somebody's on the East Road, you can tell them, oh, I'm going through the East Road, I'll try not to make any trouble for you. If somebody's in an area, they get that area. They can party with you if they want, but they're not required to. So if somebody's on the East Road, farming the East Road, and they don't want to party with anyone, that's their business. You can find another server to get access to the East Road. You can move your whole party there if you want. The portal command, like if you type portal 214, I've been using it this whole time. It'll take you to server 214 without having to go back out to the main menu. You can pick a character immediately. Really convenient stuff. But don't try to take over an area or compete with somebody for an area. Big no-no. Just go find your own place to play or get in a party with them if they want. They can decline you for any reason. They can decline you if they just don't want to play with you. It's fine. But most people will be willing to play with you. Most people are eager to play with you because of all the benefits having a party gives you. If you try to party with me, I may just say, oh, I'm testing things. I do generally, if I'm in game, I'm doing like testing. I'm testing enemy stats, or I'm testing something for a guide that I'm doing, or a speedrun route, something or other. But I'll just be nice and I'll say, I'm testing something. You'll have to go find somebody else to play with. Sorry. Have fun on this. It's an awesome. I think this is the best Neverwinter Nights 1 realm that was ever made. It's still pretty active. It's been dwindling in size, but that's part of the reason I'm making this guide, is to give people a reason to stick around and stick it out and learn it. It's kind of an information cliff to getting into it, but people are good about teaching and explaining things. There's lots of information in the journal and on the wiki. If you don't know where to find some information, you can ask where to find the information, and people will be more than happy to help you. If you type, one more command I want to give, type who all, and you can see everybody that is on every server with their level, their player name. If there is a DM online, they will have a pink DM mark next to them in case you need any help from a DM. That should be rare though. This whole server is very well automated. Anyway, thank you for watching the guide. There will be more of this content soon. I want to cover classes, and I want to cover the lobby bosses from level 1 all the way up to level 40, and a brief conversation about what happens after level 40 and what you should expect and what you should prepare for. So everyone have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.